God describes David as the man after his own heart. But in this story today that we read, we get to see what that truly looks like. Hey, my name's Logan. This I'm reading through the Bible with you. Today we read about David when his son actually took over the king, or took over the throne from him. It's a pretty hard story to read, especially as we've gotten to know David so closely and intimately. What's neat about David is that we know more about him than probably anyone else in the Bible, including Jesus. We get to see his thoughts throughout Psalms. We get to see his entire life from a boy into a man into an old man. There's so much in the Bible about David, but what I think is the truly turning point or kind of special quality about David is how he reacts to Absalom. So Absalom, to kind of set the stage, is his son. He actually, in 1 Samuel chapter 13, he kills one of his brothers because one of his brothers raped one of his sisters, gets in all this family drama, and then David doesn't see him for years. Once David finally does bring him back into the palace and into Jerusalem, Absalom begins to deceive the people and make them love him so that he can take over his father's throne. Doesn't really seem like he's winning Son of the Year anytime soon. Then Absalom, over the next few chapters of scripture, we didn't read this today, he basically tries to kill his dad for quite a long time. And a lot of David's men do remain loyal to him, but others don't. They defect. And as David is leaving Jerusalem, remember, this is the city of David that he has built, and he is fleeing out into the countryside, which is something that he did earlier in his life, running from Saul, something I'm sure he never wanted to do again. This is his response. In 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23, everyone cried loudly as the king and his followers passed by. They crossed the Kidron Valley and went out toward the wilderness. Zadok and all the Levites also came along, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. They set down the ark, and Abiathar offered sacrifices until everyone had passed out of the city. Then the king instructed Zadok, take the ark of God back to the city. This is what I think is really important. If the Lord sees fit, David said, he will bring me back to see the ark and the tabernacle again. But if he is through with me, then let him do what seems best to him. When I've been at a point in my life when I'm really struggling, I feel like God owes me. Like, hey God, I try to serve you, I try to do these things for you. You owe me this. You owe me a healing to heal someone. You owe me a job. You owe me direction. You owe me. And what amazes me about David is David has served God pretty faithfully. There have been some hiccups since he was a boy. He's done some pretty incredible things with God. And yet, here he is, being chased off by his own son, losing the throne, which, remember, he is promised forever. But yet, he manages to love God enough and to be humble enough to say that, Lord, I want to be with you, but if you're done with me, it's like this humility of like, God doesn't owe me anything. And I think that's a great quality to have if you want to be a man after God's own heart. It's just being in love with God, not for what he can give you, but just because he's God. And we've been made to love him. Furthermore, we don't see David killing Absalom. Remember, David is a warrior. And his men are warriors. I mean, David slays Goliath, and then his men go out and slay all of Goliath's brothers that are also giants. Slaying giants is nothing for these guys. I mean, they fought off any battle that's come their way. Why doesn't David just take up a sword, take up his men, go destroy this rebellion, and then sit on his throne? Why does David go into hiding? And what amazes me about him is that he's looking at God in this crossroad of a life where he's looking at God in this fork in the road saying, I can go right and do it my way, act in my own way, or I can go left and trust in God. And David chooses to trust in God. He goes back into hiding and he trusts in God. God doesn't owe us things, and We should trust in him because he has always shown us that he is faithful. And these are 2 qualifications that it takes to be a man after God's own heart. Anyways, I hope this helped you. If it did, hit subscribe, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.